Suddenly, SCP-3199 jumped right at one of the personnel. They barely had time to react before it escaped from the corridor. They fired off enough rounds to blow a chunk out of its chest. 3199 let out the most awful scream. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation Keter Class Object SCP-3199. SCP-3199, also known as human, is a sentient humanoid species of a currently unknown biological origin, though tissue samples suggest traces of domestic chicken and chimpanzee DNA. 3199 is hairless, stained with a thin layer of albumin, and stand at an average of 2.9 meters. A matured 3199 weighs around 780 kilograms, and a hatchling weighs at 360 kilograms. The necks of 3199 appear dislocated and are capable of twisting approximately 340 degrees, presumably due to the nature of 3199's reproductive cycle. SCP-3199 is an opportunistic hunter, engaging with live subjects within a radius of 0.6 kilometers surrounding hatchlings that have not yet reached full adolescence. Its average speed is recorded at 25 kilometers per hour. Upon contact with human or animal subjects, 3199 will kill them, liquefying their internal organs and bone structure. The cadaver is then given to the young and utilized as a form of nourishment. Instances of 3199 have been observed producing large eggs of an off-white coloration and rubbery appearance. These eggs will pass through its stomach, esophagus, and eventually extract via the mouth, followed by a highly corrosive red substance. SCP-3199 shows extreme distress throughout the entire process, with SCP's personnel describing the sound as not dissimilar to a scream. Presumably, due to a biologically ingrained method of avoiding extinction, SCP-3199 will always produce its eggs to fill all available space. This anomalous property currently has no known limit, and as a result may pose an LK-class species transmutation scenario. Termination of 3199 can be performed with relative ease. However, a complete eradication is currently difficult, as all instances of 3199, regardless of age, will always carry one egg inside their stomach to ensure survival for at least one member of their species at all times. The eggs from 3199 have proven to be extremely resilient. Experiments shows the egg sample lacking visible signs of damage after subjection to extreme blunt force trauma, extensive pressure exceeding 180,000 psi, high precision blades, and even long-term acid exposure. Use of point-blank explosives was suggested, but never tested, because heat exposure has been determined to accelerate hatch rates, and thus detonation may run the risk of a containment breach. During the intense heat exposure experiment, an egg sample from 3199 was secured in a containment cell that gradually increased its temperature at an average rate of 7 degrees Celsius per minute. After approximately 9 minutes, the egg ruptured violently and produced a single hatchling. On-site personnel reacted swiftly, trying to recontain the newborn instance. However, the excessive internal temperature impacted the physical growth of the young instance, and it reached adolescence at an accelerated rate of 40 seconds. As a result, it produced 2 further instances of 3199. On-site security response was swift, and all 3 instances were detained. All future heat testing involving 3199 egg samples has been forbidden until further notice. In the liquid nitrogen bath experiment, an egg sample was submerged entirely in liquid nitrogen. After approximately 45 minutes of exposure, SCP-3199 had reached negative 190 degrees Celsius. Following 2 hours of exposure, the egg sample was removed and placed under extreme pressure. As a result, hydraulic press peaked at pressures of around 9,000 psi. Cracks appeared 30 minutes into exposure, before the sample shattered. Egg fragments were collected and furthermore pressed into a fine pulp. 0 traces of albumin or yolk were located. Incineration of these remains proved successful at destroying the egg in its entirety. SCP-3199 was discovered in Ireland after reports of an unidentified, bald creature crying like a banshee from within a dense woodland resulted in the dispatching of MTF Omega-19. MTF Omega-19 arrived around 2100 hours. They were told that if they could not catch 3199, the next best thing would be snapping a frame or two. Then the Foundation hooked them up with the best night vision hardware. An hour later, they found a shack made from scrap metal and wood. It looked a lot like an oversized chicken coop. The team then entered the shack. Suddenly, SCP-3199 jumped right at one of the personnel. They barely had time to react before it escaped from the corridor. They fired off enough rounds to blow a chunk out of its chest. 3199 let out the most awful scream. Unfortunately, 2 personnel lost their lives during the action. Their internal organs and jaws were almost entirely dissolved. During transportation back to Site-114, 3199 produced 2 more offspring, resulting in the deaths of another 6 personnel. On 2017, the Foundation did a thorough sweep of 3199's initial recovery location. It was performed to uncover any further information regarding their origin. Locals claimed that the small remote residence in question has been established in the woods for several years. Surface Team D-029 managed to recover several items of interest, including 1 bag of assorted thread and needles, 3 chicken feather quills, 13 chicken carcasses with precise incisions located on the underbelly, neck, and thigh. Unbelievably, 6 of the carcasses had been plucked, with visible human teeth marks lining the bare areas seemingly at random. The team also recovered several containers, including water bottles and Tupperware boxes, holding an unidentified watery paste. The paste is deep brown in color, and when exposed to oxygen, it becomes viscous and hard. An A5 notebook, heavily scratched with human fingernails, was also found amongst the stuffs. The words, "Open when we are pure," are written on the front of the notebook. The notebook itself consisted of 24 pages of standard lined paper written in non-anomalous black ink. 19 of these pages consisted of various cuboid patterns and crude, childlike illustrations vaguely resembling SCP-3199. On the remaining 5 pages, large lines of writing detail the diary of an unnamed individual. Most of what was written was found totally illegible. However, one extract dated in 1973 was written with notably higher clarity, and quote, "If you're reading this, then lucky you. 1 millionth hour from not and it'll be fun. And the wonderful versatility of inferior human DNA will give birth to a new era. A stronger era. One where and food and water will be nothing but things of the past, as we make and make and make more for the better future. I really haven't much time. That's why I envy you so. You'll have all the time you need. Time will be on, and death will be life. New life changes lives and brings smiles like a freshness. New life will be a part of life from now on." The final page consisted of several ink blots, 13 instances of the word life in various sizes, and 2 instances of the words, "Didn't you want this?" SCP-3199 was issued Keter classification on June 10th of 2017, following the events of a containment breach. After the breaching incident, SCP-3199's original water containment method was disassembled and replaced with the current resin solution. Besides, Protocol 34-22-B poached will be carried out during the event of a breach. The following steps are the procedure of this protocol. On-site personnel with Level 1 security clearance or above initiate standard lockdown procedure and immediately move to Site-113 unless instructed otherwise. Site-114 is to be filled entirely with distilled water, treated with Class A sedatives. Then, Surface Team Tango 306-A will be notified and dispatched and instructed to retrieve any instances of SCP-3199's eggs. Any living instances of 3199 will be terminated on site, and their remaining eggs will be collected. All egg samples are to be transported to temporary off-site containment. Site-114 will then be drained, and janitorial staff dispatched to thoroughly clean the area. Any personnel attempting to breach Site-114 before this inspection is complete will be apprehended and suspended accordingly. Some personnel have displayed skepticism regarding the necessity of this protocol. However, Dr. Watt believes that fluid is an excellent counter to 3199's anomalous reproductive properties. It appears to enter an inert state in the presence of liquid, regardless of thickness or clarity. There are two theories regarding this occurrence. First, SCP-3199's need for survival demands all of its attention to focus on not drowning. Second, SCP-3199 considers the liquid around it as full space, and as a result does not produce any egg when submerged. So, the biology mutation process of SCP-610 and some aspects of the exploration logs were discussed in Part 1. If you want to know more, please click here to watch Part 1. In this video, we will dive further into the exploration of SCP-610. At the end of Part 1, we mentioned that the destruction of Site C resulted in a series of unexpected events in Site A. As the strange spherical formation in Site C was burned and destroyed, aerial footage shows the infected entities in Site A going into explosion. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation Keter-class object SCP-610 Part 2. After the explosion, all immobile 610 infected within the village rapidly shriveled and died, along with any flesh material spread across inanimate objects. The mobile 610 infected made their way into an upper-class residence building. As the infected entered the building, the ground collapsed, revealing a sinkhole. All infected life that did not evacuate into the hole, remaining above ground instead, died and quickly became shriveled husks. In a span of 30 minutes, 3 research teams set up stations within the village's remains. Samples of the deceased 610 infected were sent back to Perimeter HQ for processing and researching. However, 2 hours later, seismic activity began to occur within Site A. 2 of the original teams remained on site, while the third team was instructed to proceed back to Perimeter HQ with the collected samples. Immediately following the seismic event, a torrent of 610 spores erupted from the hole and layered the area around it for a span of 50 meters. As the eruption was being reported, both teams at Site A were assaulted by infected flying organisms. These organisms attacked by splitting their heads in half and clamping them against research members, pulling them into the air, and dropping them into the hole. Before video and radio contact was lost with the remaining teams inside Site A, a second seismic event began to occur, causing another spore burst. Following this, a new, previously unseen SCP-610 entity began to emerge from the hole. The creature's only footage depicts an engorged human head, approximately 20 times larger than that of an average human, pressing itself out of the hole with no discernible body. The research team's video and radio contact were lost as seismic forces increased to 7 on the Richter magnitude scale for 2 seconds duration, then abruptly ceased. For over 1 hour, nothing further had happened at Site A. All personnel and equipment are considered lost. With an absence of activity at Site A, the Foundation decided to send in another remote drone to explore the sinkhole and relay transmitted data back to HQ. After approximately 2 minutes, the drone found traces of SCP-610 material attached to the dirt and rocks at a depth of 15 meters. The material is dormant, but retains its texture and appearance, unlike samples from above ground level, which shrivels and dries rapidly. At 100 meters in depth, small tunnels branch out at apparently random intervals. An increase in the density of SCP-610 materials found on the walls is noted as the drone continues down. The bottom of the sinkhole becomes visible, and the tunnel tilts sharply, suggesting an abnormal formation. 610 material now coats the tunnel entirely. Movement is detected 5 meters ahead. The camera focus turns to a moving mass, which appears to be a deer, uninfected, wriggling in the grips of tendrils composed of 610 material. The deer is suspended in mid-air. 30 meters past the encountered deer, the tunnel displays large lumps in apparently random placement. These lumps are discovered to have similarities to the infected villagers who escaped from Site A, finding refuge in the sinkhole after Site C's destruction. The sound of rushing water is now detected, and the drone is pushed forward. The tunnel splits into a crossroads at this point. One tunnel leads around a river and then seems to slope downward, while the other is directly above a light source in the ceiling. The drone proceeds upwards for approximately 45 minutes, before emerging into a windy mountainside, assumed to be in the neighborhood of Site B. The buildings appear to be constructed directly from 610 tissue substance and coated in deceased 610 material. After a cursory scan of Site B, it is determined that there is no life present, either natural or 610 related. So the drone is directed back into the tunnel. Upon descent, a deep roaring sound fills the audio, and the video feed shows what appears to be an immense human face with no discernible features and stretched to 20 times normal proportions. It rushes towards the drone. There are eye sockets, but no eyes, a mouth, but no teeth. The drone fires upon this creature, but bullets do not deter it. There is no room in the tunnel for the drone to take evasive action, and soon the drone is swallowed, cutting both audio and video feed. Approval from Central HQ was granted for a manned assault excursion into the tunnels beneath Site A to ascertain the SCP-610 infection's extent. The destruction of Site A and Site C established that 610 could be contained and destroyed, making the source of the infection top priority. The descent into the tunnels consisted of 5 teams, 2 researchers, and 3 assault agents, along with enough equipment to establish an underground base of operations. The base camp for underground SCP-610 operations resided at the bottom of a 3-way junction where the tunnels split. The first pathway led from Site A to Cavern HQ. The second pathway connected to the ruined Site B village, where an unknown 610 entity destroyed the previous drone. The third pathway headed west and seemed to follow a flow of water from an unconfirmed source. The 2 research teams divided activities between building Cavern HQ and collecting samples of 610. No contagious materials were detected within this area, and the unknown creature recorded by the destroyed drone did not appear at any point to the cavern staff. The remaining teams were ordered to proceed down the unexplored pathway with personal recording devices. After approximately 20 kilometers of walking, no infectious life forms appear in the tunnel. The assault team leader then requests a transport buggy be dispatched to them, which is used to continue the exploration. Following this, they come under attack by multiple 610 infected life forms that emerge from the material coating the tunnel walls. While the assault team manages to escape and protect the buggy during this attack, select members are lost to rapid water currents in the stream below. 3 members of the assault team remain, armed with a single flame unit. They continue with exploration. Hours later, the group comes under attack again from a smaller number of 610 entities larger than the previous encounters. Dispatching the creatures results in all equipped flamethrowers to deplete their fuel tanks, forcing the teams to rely on standard weapons and short-range personal flame units for the remainder of their excursion. The tunnel widens out into what appears to have once been a village of indeterminate age. There is a church with a working clock tower, and the area surrounding the building has a dent in the ground filled with a substance resembling a liquefied version of 610 fleshy material. The liquid moves with unseen force, rippling outward from invisible contact points and rolling in waves from unfelt wind. The team avoids this liquid and proceeds to the church. Within the church are 4 pews, one of them shattered, and a pulpit. Strangely, the entire area is immaculately clean. The clock tower bell tolls abruptly. This triggers a shudder in the building, followed by human screams that appear to come from above. Light from an unknown source shines upon the ceiling, revealing a large mass of SCP-610 and 6 wooden circles. Strapped to each ring is a living human, coated entirely from neck to toe in 610. Their exposed head appears uninfected. There is relentless screaming as the bell continues to toll, wooden circles lowering to the ground. An unknown creature cries from outside, prompting the team to hide behind the pulpit. All sources of light are extinguished, pitching the area into darkness. The camera's night vision is left off, presumably to avoid revealing the team's location. A figure is seen holding a small torch from the church's entrance and lights a series of candles at the doorway. The flame is then applied to a rope coated in SCP-610, which quickly ignites, and spreads up to a chandelier system. The light from this system illuminates the red material holding the captive humans, which shows signs of constant motion, rippling across itself in waves. A flood of 610 infected shamble quickly into the area, proceed to the captives and begin to rip off the red material surrounding them, resulting in further screams and cries. The red material seems to be connected to the humans, using them as a source of sustenance to grow, which then provides food to the 610 infected. Feeding like this continues for 6 minutes, at which time a figure sounds a gong, and all infected entities move to the pews. The figure then spontaneously collapses as if made from hollow clay. A pillar of SCP-610 flesh rises and extends through the hole behind the pulpit, directing itself toward the gathered creatures. 10 minutes later, it retracts back into the hole, and the infected entities exit the church. As the 3 team members attempt to leave, one of them is thrown into the air several meters by a tendril that emerges out of the ground. The 2 remaining members run back towards the buggy. Passing by a building, one of them is ambushed by a figure wielding a large crop scythe, which footage reveals to be the same infected who previously lit the church candles. The last member continues without pause towards the buggy location. However, the buggy is found half absorbed by a SCP-610 mass covering the floor. While attempting to find another means of escape, his camera reveals the scythe-wielding figure approaching. Weapon raised. 2 shots are fired, and the video feed ends. 5 hours later, while final decisions were underway regarding how to contain or eradicate the SCP-610 threat, a time-delayed video feed from the initial team members lost to the underground river currents became available. This feed was filled in SCP-610 L6 field logs containing the exploration records of Operation Source Point. I recall being excited that morning, the first time ever I went on a fishing trip with my dad on a Saturday morning. We putted along to the middle of the lake, shut off the engine, cast our lines, and waited. We sat there, waiting and waiting for a bite, but nothing came. Just a nibble here and there. We chatted about mundane things for a while until my pole and even the boat lurched forward. Something massive had gotten hooked and was slowly pulling us around. I yelled for my dad to help me, and he took the pole and attempted to reel in whatever gargantuan fish I had hooked. My dad was a big guy, so to see him strain so much against a fish was startling. Eventually, we were pulled farther and farther out into the lake. As he struggled, I looked out into the distance and saw what looked like a tugboat. Confused, I asked my dad if he saw it too. He grunted that he had and told me to shout to them to help us out. I called out to the boat, but after getting close enough to see it, I regretted yelling immediately. The boat was covered in blood and organs and looked terribly rusted with no one on board. At first, I thought there was some horrible accident until I saw the tentacles that sprouted out from it and what looked like eye stalks. I shouted for my dad to just let the pole go as we needed to leave immediately. But he was too engrossed in what he was doing to notice. He did manage to reel in the fish, which actually turned out to be on that tugboat's tentacles. My dad freaked out and chucked it into the water along with the fishing pole. He quickly turned on the engine in an attempt to get out of there. The tugboat sped through the water behind us, its tentacles flailing behind us, chunks of rancid-smelling flesh being launched at us from God knows where. My dad told me to open his tackle box and remove the top layer. I did and found a gun, which I didn't even know he had one. He shouted instructions at me on how to use it, and I immediately opened fire on the thing as best as I could. By the grace of God or some unknown entity, a few of my shots slowed it down enough for us to get to shore. We abandoned the boat and opted to just get away by driving. I peered out the window and saw the tugboat just sitting there in the shallows before sinking below the water. Personally, I think that whatever it was hurt, and so figured we weren't worth chasing any further. Who knows? As for my dad and me, we spend all of our time on land now, pretending we never encountered some kind of eldritch beast. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you SCP Foundation Keter Class Object SCP-6426. SCP-6426, also known as Vampire Boat, is an anomalous marine vessel currently in Foundation custody after a prolonged battle with the entity in 3 Portlands, an extra-dimensional city-state located within a pocket universe, which overlaps with the locations of Portland, Maine, Portland, Oregon, and the Isle of Portland in the United Kingdoms. It is the largest paranormal enclave in North America, and is one of the most populous locations to be entirely concealed behind the veil. 6426 is a sapient tugboat with vampiric characteristics. It is ambulatory, meaning it has adapted certain parts of its structure into appendages that can carry itself on land. 6426 is incredibly hostile towards all living things and very predatory by nature. As for its physical appearance, 6426 looks like an incredibly rusted tugboat, albeit consisting of both metal and organic material. In order to repair itself, 6426 drains the blood from its prey. Not only blood, but any organ-filled or entity that has blood will also be absorbed into its biomass. Excess blood and organic material are converted to large tentacles, cannons, and harpoons. The purpose of these weapons are used almost exclusively in capturing new prey and defense if necessary. Other than weaponry, 6426 can also create eye-like appendages that produce cognitohazards in order to lure in prey. It should be noted that the cannonballs shot from 6426 consist of anomalous barnacles. These barnacles take the place of the missing flesh of the host they puncture, and then in turn take control of the host, killing them in the process. These converted entities are classified as SCP-6426-C. Not only that, they can move on their own and become rolling masses of carnivorous flesh. The tentacles that 6426 uses have leech-like mouths that are used in the conversion of would-be prey. These mouths puncture the skin of the living organism and clamp down on the base of the spinal column, killing the host. These entities, designated as SCP-6426-A, are similar to what we know as vampires. Instances of 6426-A suck the blood from prey, sending the supply of blood to 6426 and also serve to protect 6426. These entities can be granted unique powers from 6426, ranging from extreme physical strength and speed to insanely durable bodies. These instances can be absorbed should it run low on blood or heal itself. The last ability unique to 6426 is that it can create instances of SCP-6426-B. These instances are boats converted through the use of 6426, coating it with its organic matter. These boats are less intelligent versions of 6426 and can act independently of it, but will respond to any and all orders that 6426 gives them. The discovery of 6426 was a very violent affair. It manifested within the waters of 3 Portlands after converting over a dozen boats. All of these instances supplied some organic matter to create a massive fleshy wall entrapping the Gunrock district. These instances in 6426 then embarked on a massive campaign to slaughter and absorb all the organic matter in the district, humans. Military personnel were dispatched immediately and were able to combat these instances to a certain extent. While they were able to protect some civilians, it was the 3 Portland's very own local law enforcement security golems who were able to push them back. One golem in particular charged at 6426 and managed to beat it down, injuring it severely. Unfortunately, the golem was dispatched rather quickly after 6426 repeatedly slammed on top of it, shattering it. Another entity, a parahuman within 3 Portlands known only as the Gruel, fought it off with twin swords but was unable to kill it. Before the instances could overrun the Gunrock district, extra security personnel arrived, shattered through the barrier with numerous golems. These golems fought back all instances of 6426-A, B, and C. The Gruel then used its impressive strength to beat 6426 down, launch it into the air, and punched it so hard it opened a waypoint to our reality. The now unconscious 6426 was then apprehended by the Foundation and has been in custody since. While many civilians were killed in the apprehension of 6426, a valuable piece of information was learned. 6426 and its instances are weak to Electrum. All Foundation security personnel guarding its containment unit are given Electrum bullets in an effort to stall it should it try to breach containment, until better and stronger forces can arrive to subdue it. A few months after containment, 6426 managed to breach its containment and go on a slaughter throughout the Foundation facility it was housed in. However, when on-site security personnel cornered the entity within an office space, they observed something peculiar. It suddenly began fixating at the Foundation's insignia on the wall, as if fascinated or perplexed, and then ceased its rampage and absorbed all the converted personnel and used their biomass to construct an organic siren which began emitting human vocalizations. A junior researcher, Dr. Williamson, was sent to speak with 6426 on his very first day with the Foundation. Do I really got to speak with the fleshy boat monster? Yep, you're the best man we've got now. What happened to the other researchers? I'm just a junior. Most qualified personnel was killed when it went on rampage. As for your head researcher, well, you just heard him coming through its siren. Why don't you do it? You seem oddly calm about all this. I'm a director, not a doctor. I'm in charge of the workings of the facility. You're in charge of the science stuff. Now go talk to it. You'll be fine. Damn it. All right. Here we go. Dr. Williamson stepped into the room shakily. In contrast, the entity appeared apprehensive, diplomatic even, as it waited patiently for Dr. Williamson's approach. Hello? I'm Dr. Williamson. You must be… Suddenly, its siren blared again, and out came the voice of the site's former head researcher.
I am so sorry. I thought you were those self-righteous lunatics from the church. I apologize profusely for any trouble I may have caused, and I want to point out I fully support your mission.
The room was dumbfounded by this turn of event. An eldritch boat monster apologizing for its behavior was simply too far out of the Foundation's expectation.
You are, of course, from Shark Punching Center, yes?
Actually, we are… Play along. Well, yeah, I'm from the Shark Punching Center, of course. Apparently, it had mistaken them for the Church of the Broken God. This information caused lots of speculations to run rampant throughout the researchers who were present and afterward. It would appear that because of the fleshy amalgamation the 6426 was, it could be related to the flesh that hates, or some other spawn of Yaldabaoth, the god of the Sarkics. When asked why 6426 went on a rampage, it said that it was hunting an Admiral Izzet. Izzet and the church had been hunting his kind for a long time. 6426 then explained that everyone and everything were nothing but cabin boys wandering around in blackness, unable to do anything. And it was the church that prevented greatness and joy in the world. But to make the world a better place, they must invite the beast in through a waypoint in 3 Portlands. Dr. Williamson and the other researchers were astounded by this information. They were aware of the large number of anomalous entities, objects, and phenomena in 3 Portlands, but none were aware that there is a waypoint capable of bringing such entities like Yaldabaoth. It was at this point that 6426 began to question whether or not he was truly speaking with the Shark Punching Center, as it thought. Yeah, we are the Shark Punching Center. We will determine if you are a suitable candidate to carry out the mission, to search, punch, and contain sharks.
Oh, wait, did you say containment? I can sense a lie in your words. Yes, you're lying.
Thanks to the inexperience of Dr. Williamson, 6426 discovered the ruse and immediately attempted to escape, crashing into the nearby wall multiple times in order to break through. Fortunately, with the help of some on-site electrum and sonic weapons, 6426 was subdued and contained. While the Foundation is concerned with 6426 breaching containment in the future, what they learned from it was far more disturbing, which is the fact that there are unknown waypoints in 3 Portlands that can accidentally be opened at any time, waypoints that can bring forth eldritch beings from another reality. When the O5 Council was made aware of such ramifications, they almost unanimously decided to start an expedition to find any and all waypoints. And should any be found, they are to be forcefully shut, their location marked down, and cut off from the general public. The only one who opposed was O5-3. O5-3 stated that searching for such waypoints would ensure their destruction. She explained that it would become a self-fulfilling prophecy to find them. Who's to say that if they find a waypoint, some entity wouldn't just cross over immediately and kill everyone? Or perhaps they would find the waypoint to Yaldabaoth. What then? O5-3 petitioned the administrator, the only figure with authority above the council. After reviewing both sides of the argument, he ruled in favor of O5-3. His reasoning was as follows. Time and time again, we have protected the normalcy of the world, prevented abominations from leaking into our plane of existence, and more. I assumed you all would be competent enough to understand that trying to find them would be disastrous. Under normal circumstances, this would be fine. But I cannot believe I must remind you all that we are not equipped to combat such profane and horrid things as an elder god. 053 is correct in her argument. The next time I have to step in for something like this, expect an in-depth review of not only your performance, but your competency. With that said, the council then ruled in favor of leaving such unidentified waypoints alone, in fear of summoning something vile and of the administrator.